on the legal processes involved. We're joined by Professor Jaap De Visser from the University of the Western Cape's Dullah Omar Institute. Thanks for your time tonight, Professor. 2 weeks before this Section 100 was invoked, we had the Health Department being placed under administration. What is the criteria that the failure of the Northwest Province would have had to meet in order to qualify now that the entire government be placed under administration?
Thanks and good evening. Well, you know, our constitution establishes a sort of a semi-federal system with provinces that each have their own elected leadership. And they have powers are protected by the constitution. But the constitution also says that if things go horribly wrong, and if a province cannot or does not fulfill an executive obligation, that the national government may then move in and take over the province. And I think that's what has been seen happening in the Northwest, where the entire provincial government has been seen to be failing, and the national government has moved in. And the key criterion is if there are essential minimum standards of governance or service delivery at stake, if they are being jeopardized, if they are being dealt with illegally and not being complied with, that's when a national government can move in and take over parts of the province or the entire provincial government.
I'm listening to that criteria that you've just talked us through, and Professor, I'm wondering, to the extent that the failures or the absolute failures have to some extent affected only the Health Department, what is the basis on which the decision is being made, perhaps more broadly?
Well, one can only assume that in this case the problems are not limited to the senior management of a specific department and not even the political leadership of a political department, but that the problem is in fact widespread throughout the provincial government and is located in cabinet itself. That would be, you know, the most plausible explanation as to why the national government has decided to basically take over the entire provincial government, because a Section 100 intervention is not necessarily new. We've seen it before in the Eastern Cape, in the Free State, even in Gauteng, and in Limpopo. Specific departments or a number of departments were intervened into, but this is the first time that an entire provincial government is essentially suspended.
And of course, part of the difficulty here is that while there is, of course, an issue of governance that the president feels needs to be attended to, there's very much the issue of politics and what is currently playing itself out within the ranks of the ANC. And, you know, at the point that these two issues then merge or can be conflated, do you have absolute confidence in the intent behind this decision that is coming from ensuring that the best interests of the people of the Northwest are being adhered to and not just political interests and political strategy at play?
I think you can place question marks next to the timing of this intervention. But perhaps more so in the sense that you could ask the question, why not earlier? And because I think the signs were very clearly there for many months, if not years, that the Northwest provincial government was in deep trouble. So I do think that the intervention seems to be warranted. I don't think there's a lot of reason to second guess that. But of course, one can ask the question, how much of this is a response to a new reality that has emerged over the last weeks, a governance reality, and how much of it is the president addressing internal problems within the ANC and particularly within the Northwest. But I think in both cases you would have to acknowledge the fact that the Northwest provincial government has not been performing, and that the signs were clearly there for a long time already that this was a provincial government in trouble.
All right. Let's talk about what happens now, especially to that particular province, in terms of the legalities of how decisions are made and who gets to make decisions from here going forward.
Well, very practically, the national government now runs the Northwest. In practical terms, what will happen is that the national government will appoint a team of officials and they will be deployed and physically move into the Northwest and take up office there and probably very quickly target key vulnerable sites in the provincial government that have been prone to be administered badly or even guilty of corrupt actions. So you can think of the provincial treasury and anything that has to do with supply chain management throughout the province, anything that has to do with the appointment of senior officials. I think this intervention team will very quickly seek to take control of that. And very practically, every member of the provincial cabinet and all heads of departments of all the provincial departments in the Northwest will now have to report to this team of officials who will move in on the back of a mandate directly from the President.
All right, that's where we're going to leave it for tonight. Thank you for your insight, Professor Jaap De Visser from the University of the Western Cape's Dullah Omar Institute.